I'm sure others are like, no, you're crazy. But hey, we are on the Be Insanely Great podcast show. It's a podcast show. You know, it's a podcast show. It's another sunny, beautiful day in South Florida. Thankfully, I'm in the shade for now. If I wasn't, it would be a solid 10 degrees warmer. But appreciate the lovely, cool wind that graces our presence every few moments. So, welcome back to Be Insanely Great, a joyful experience of present moments in random sequence, yet interconnected in some way. Happy to be back with you. Oh, and by the way, for all of those that are saying, hey, you said you're going to be live. Where's your live stuff? We're working on it. It's coming. Okay? These things don't happen overnight. All right? We're starting with the edited program, making things work, building out a flow, gaining momentum, and we will be live. I assure you of that. And, you know, we'll get there. You know, the Beatles, hey, the Beatles are the Beatles. And, you know, they had this whole thing with this documentary, right? And if you watch their own progression, they hadn't talked to each other or worked together for months and months and months. They come together to do this thing. It took them 3 weeks to go live, and that was only for 40 minutes. And we're going to be live every week. So, like, you know, we'll get there. Let's trust the universe. Let's trust our kind of disposition for getting there. We'll be there. I promise. We'll be there. And thank you so much for joining. So excited and grateful to have you all here and be part of this journey that we're on in figuring this out, whatever this is, and trying to do our best to, you know, grow and appreciate and learn and just be fearlessly. Yes, fearlessly. That's another thing. We'll talk about that at some point too, because that's kind of seems to be part of the equation. If all that is, let's say the lyrics, as our fellow John Lennon said in the documentary, that the whole point of the Get Back performance was communication, just as all you need is love. And if we take the core elements of that, the lyrics of all you need is love, that you attract what you fear, all you need is love, and you can do, you can have, and you can be anything you can imagine. You know, like, let's do that. Let's try it. Let's see what happens. I don't know anybody that's like legitimately made concerted effort to do that consistently, at least in my life. You know, I'm sure there's absolutely people out there and great quotes from people out there like that. But, you know, fear has its thorns, right? People say, I had mentioned previously, and might not have been in one of the episodes, depending on where you are in the sequence of listening and watching. It's almost like when you have an idea and you have a dream and you have something that you want to do for your life, and then you share it with the people you love, and they're like, "You can't do that." What do you mean you can't do that? You know, that's not possible for your circumstances. You know, those, and everybody has their opinion. Everybody makes their own choices. Everybody is their own person and has their own personality, right? And so, and we trust these people in our lives, and they're there for us, and they support us, you know, probably almost all the time, you know, but on occasion when we talk about something big and something different, you know, there's immediately limits put on it, and that's not anybody's fault. That's just how we're wired in this world today. And you know, like, I would just say, if you look at it from the perspective of that we each want to give each other a chance, and we each want to say, you know what, you do you want to do something amazing that's never been done before, then go do it. Right? You know, we look at the most influential people that have ever done amazing things. Like, they do it. They don't listen to anybody. You know, Jennifer Lopez had an incredible thing on one of the platforms where they documented her Super Bowl performance, and her disposition in that show. She was fearless. She is fearless. J-Lo is fearless. And you look at her story, you look at how she grew up in the Bronx, Arthur Avenue in the Bronx, where my family, originated and then migrated down to the heart of South Florida. but anyways, it's one small connection. But anyways, like J-Lo, like, oh my God, like your story is incredible. To become where you've become, and to believe in yourself, and to overcome everybody, and overcome all those spears of fear and all those daggers of doubt, to become who you became, and to be the inspiration that you are for so many people around the world, and all of the joyful moments, and your songs and your motion pictures and all of these things. And it's not just you, as you know, it's all people that believe in themselves, all people that find what it is that they believe in themselves, and then they do it. And then there are no apologies for it, because like we technically don't owe anybody anything. Like, if we're honest, we don't. Like, we all think we're a speck in a big world, but what if we turn that perspective on its head and we said, well, all right, there's 8 billion people in this world, or whatever, something in that range, and like, instead of us being one speck, like what if, and if we think about it in this way, we are all in our own world. We are all in our own world in every moment. True, because with all of our thoughts and all of our feelings and all of our things within our own life, right? We're in our own world. So why, if we're literally in that place and in that mindset or in that space all the time, why is it that we think we're just one small speck in this big world? Like, what if everything originated from us? And if we took control and we took ownership and we said, no, you do you, I'll do me. Well, like, I'm going to do this because this is what I believe in. This is what I feel is what I need to do, And Einstein had a quote. He said, if you look, and I'm paraphrasing, so we'll give the reference of the quote in the notes. But he said, if you look at all of the most influential people that have ever walked this earth, the one common thread that exists among all of them is they first found what it was within them that was important. And once they did that, they expressed that, and wow, it just became them and was their definition, right? And Oprah says something similar. Oprah, I've seen on Instagram Reels where she gives speeches and to college universities of graduating classes, and she says, find out what it is that you want to do. You can go through life and you can be doing this and be doing that, but if you don't know what it is that you want to do, how do you ever know that you're working towards that? Oprah, thank you. Thank you, Oprah. Thank you. Like, and the amount of people that you've inspired, the amount of moments of awareness that you've inspired within people, within humanity, within, all that is, and pulling that together and trying to help people understand a perspective and a potential that exists. I think you have a quote that, and I think this is on Brainy quote that I read it. She's like, you said, I said, I'm speaking to you, Oprah. Thank you so much for listening. I said, you said something like, if I knew that being myself would make me as rich as I am, I would have done it a lot sooner. Like, and Oprah, I'd love to ask you and expand upon that. But seriously, I mean, if we can just become ourselves, right? And what is that? They say, find yourself. Well, I don't know what that means. Like, who knows what that means? Like, at face value, when they hear it, oh, that sounds like a great thing to do sometime when I'm not so busy, right? So yeah, like trust yourself. Let's trust ourselves. Let's not be the person that throws daggers of doubt or spears of fear in people's dreams. Let's give everyone the opportunity to be whoever it is they want to be and whatever it is they want to be in every present moment. And all potentials exist in every present moment. And so, let's just be fearlessly. Fearlessly. Yes, fearlessly. Why not? Fearlessly. No one talks about being fearless. Everybody talks about all the obstacles. You see those skiers that go down the mountain, right? And they're weaving between the trees at like 80 kilometers an hour, some crazy speed, right? You think they're thinking about the trees? If they thought about the trees, boom, trees, slap, spank, bam, this, explosion, but they think about the path. They look at the path. They see the path. And if they're not seeing the path, calamity, discord, all things fall apart, broken bones, rehab for physical rehab for forever, or depending on what happens, right? And so all these things happen, and so but anyways, I don't know where that came from. It just happened. But Riley, I think I was going to defer to you to ask me a question on how we can build upon what we've touched on so far.
So did you want to start going into some of the Beatles stuff?
We can do that.
Do you want to go into Get Back today? I mean, that's sort of with episode 2, sort of, it was.
I think it'd be good to touch on that throughout, almost like you have these shows and these episodes that, or these movies where they have 3 or 4 concurrent scenes going on, and things pop in every once in a while, and it's almost like it, because the reality is that's a recurring. And here's the thing that I only just kind of thought about recently is so this entire concept of the present moment, and this entire concept of time is an illusion and time doesn't exist. What does that mean? How are you supposed to conceptualize that as a thing when time is literally the construct, the constraint that runs our lives and all of our lives every day and every moment of every day, right? And so, what if everything is always happening in the present moment? And an example of that is that, so let's say the Beatles and their whole Get Back performance and their whole kind of last hurrah with the live show, right? For me, at least, looking at that and listening to that and feeling the energy that was that I say was that occurred, right, in a present moment in January of 1969, using time as a point of reference for when it occurred relative to this moment, right? But if I'm honest with myself, that, the energy of that happening, although it was then, is affecting my present moment now. It's affecting my present moment now because I'm thinking about it. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling the energy of it, right? Just because it happened to have occurred in January of 1969 when I physically was, my body did not exist. It had not been born from my mother and father and amazing family, right? I wasn't a physical being on this earth yet in this body. But my point is that, again, if we were to look at that as something that is influencing our thoughts now, and if the present moment is something that is so powerful, that is so precious, that is so full of potential, right? And we just simplify it. We just say, all right, well, the only thing that matters is the thoughts and the feelings of right now, and then use that as a reference point to make us feel and to make us believe and to make us trust and accept ourselves. And one of the most impactful things that I've learned is whether it's, and it could be in anything. You could be cooking, you could be writing something, you could be working on something for work, you can be doing something creative, which creative creation, I think, we'll talk about that more in terms of our potential and all of that, but we can be doing something, and if we just feel something and trust it and allow us and give ourselves the opportunity to say, if we read a quote and we resonate with it, take a moment and think about it and how that might apply to us, and does it apply? And if we did something and took action or made choices differently based on one of those quotes or one of those things that people have said, the moment right now in which we're doing that and we're thinking about that and we're trying to understand, Oh, these birds are beautiful. They're flying all over the place. It helps that I have a bird feeder about 30 feet away, but they are, all the time, blue jays and cardinals and house sparrows and buntings and painted buntings. Those are incredible. I didn't even know a bird like that existed. It looks like a rainbow on a bird. Yeah. So anyway, sorry, got distracted. That's another thing. Sorry, I said sorry. Like, don't, like, that's like, if we as we thank Steve Harvey in a prior episode for changing got to get, can, like, the potential exists to replace sorry with thank you. Thank you for allowing me to digress for a moment while my environment distracted me to appreciate the small things that kind of are here to make us smile and make us happy, like nature. So thank you. And that in and of itself was a lesson that I learned with using thank you instead of sorry. I was always one to be apologizing. Sorry, whether I was walking in on sending an email, or I was walking into someone's office, or I was just calling somebody, saying sorry for bothering you, like, no. Why do we need to apologize for just, like, being? We don't need to apologize. We're just doing our thing, and we're trying. Literally, the reality is like, we might be imposing on someone's time and space and whatever it is that they're doing. But the honest truth, if we're honest with ourselves, is it's likely something they need for us to be there too. And it's okay for us to be there in that moment. And there's no need to apologize, to where everything we start with, oh, beautiful cardinal, everything we start with, just start off with sorry. Oh, what a downing thing. But if you say thank you for allowing me to interrupt you, or thank you for your patience while I made a series of choices that allowed me to be late today, whatever it is, right? Whatever it is, like, it changes the entire disposition of the mood and the environment that we're in. Instead of saying, oh my God, so sorry, saying, oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate your patience or you allowing me to do this or whatever. It totally changes something so simple. That totally changes the entire circumstance. Forgot where I was. Where was I? I got onto some sorry, thank you thing. Oh, we were talking about the Beatles and get back in communication. You watch elements of that and the expressions of joy, and if we can track, like that documentary, the Get Back documentary with, I'll just say, Peter Jackson, Disney Plus, and Apple Corp. Thank you for giving that to the world. Seriously, thank you. And to have that documented and to be able to look back on that, to see how a group of people that seem to be grounded in peace and love, all these things that everybody just says, oh, they're hippies or whatever, like labeling people. But if you see them and you feel the emotions that they have, and you can see you kind of track the expressions of joy and excitedness that happen at certain moments, and then you look to what actually happened, and like, those are the things that happened. Right? I got goosebumps saying that. Like, those are the things that happened. In the beginning, and I probably mentioned this, and I might be repeating this, but sometimes repetition is one of the best things that can be something in which we realize. The more we hear it, the more we're like, oh, maybe we should think about that. So I'll say it again. George Harrison was talking about Billy Preston before they even talked about a keyboardist in some of the early discussions that they had, and he was so excited. He was saying, oh man, he was backup for Little Richard, I think, and one of those guys, and he was better than them. He was amazing. And then he randomly shows up that he had to have, and he had an interview in London, and he was just stopping by to say hi. And then, whoa, he's on the record. What? Are you kidding me? Wow. Wow. And then like, using that as a correlative example to the Ted Lasso episode I mentioned in episode 1, right? Like, talk about having collective expressions of exuberant joy for things that could happen, right? And then they happen. And of course, you're like, oh, well, it didn't happen right away. Well, of course not. That life doesn't happen in that sequence. It's like we all think it's this straight line, when in reality, it's like this. And then, oh, we get here. We get there eventually, but it doesn't happen in the way we think. And sometimes when those random occurrences and those unknowns, we trust the unknown. Thank you, Joe Dispenza, again for that. Like, trust the unknown. Why not? Why not? Right? Like, give ourselves an opportunity, and again, in releasing control. And it doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen in a day. It happens in little moments. It happens in little moments to say, I don't know, like an example could be, all right, well, I want my hedge trimmed a certain way, right? And I only like it the way I trim it. But you know what? The gardeners trim it, and I don't like the way they trim it. But you know what? Like, let me just let that go. Let me just let that go, and then whatever. And then that's one less thing I don't need to upset myself about, right? And then if you think about it, we have thousands of moments in the day. I mean, I think Riley, please correct my math on this, but if we're awake 14 hours a day, and there's 60 minutes in an hour, 14 times 16, and then 60 seconds in a minute. So 14 times 60 times 60. I think it's like 50,000, something like that. We have 50,000 waking moments to make a choice every day. Every day. So, like, it's okay to take 1 second of those moments, or a series of seconds, and say, all right, I'm making a choice to let it be, and let one thing that I felt like I needed control of in my life to just, like, I'm not going to worry about that anymore. My neighbor, like, before all this journey started, and I, reflecting back on it, and I think the journey started before the actual journey started. We'll talk about that another episode. But, it's my neighbor, Frank, love you, man. His nickname for me was Just So Joe. Just So Joe needed everything on my house, in my life, to be just so. To which I shared that nickname with another friend of mine, Julia. Amazing. You are so incredible. Thank you. Everything needs to be just so for Joe. No, like I trust you to do your thing, and certainly there's things that matter more, and that you want to kind of just have an influence to be better, or to be a certain way, only because we all have we all have a way in which we want it. We all have a way in which we want it. We all have a way, and whether that comes from, and again, going back to the "All You Need Is Love" lyrics, and sort of a potential premise of all you need is love. You attract what you fear, and you also attract what you love. Like, that's like, let me add that comment to the all you need is love. And you can do, and you can be anything you can imagine. Well, like, so could that mean that every choice we make is either based in fear or based in love? Is that possible? I think it is. I mean, if you think about it, and it's not easily, and it might not be easily correlated. No, that's not it. But if we really are honest with ourselves, and we just take one example within our day or within our life right now, and we just think about it, and we think about every root decision, because we can make a decision here, but the reality, if we really get into it and we really look at it, there's probably a series of 2, 3, 4, 10 decisions that were made as to things that we were either we're typically worried about, which is a fear. We're typically worried about. We're typically thinking, oh, I need to do this because, this might happen, or I need to do this because that might happen, or if I don't do this, oh my God, right? And so, and what if we, instead of worrying about all of that, we just took a moment to say, all right, let me think about all the factors. These are all my conscious concerns, not fears, not doubts, but conscious concerns. And let me approach it all right, to solve all the conscious concerns and to really put intention and care into what it is that I'm doing here, the choice that I'm making, like, here's how that should play out for a choice made out of love, made out of a selfless choice. That's the other thing, is that if we consider that, correlating fearful choices with selfishness because we're afraid of something, and correlating choices of love with selflessness and unconditional love and understanding and kindness, the potential is incredible. Like, why doesn't that potential exist? Because we haven't seen it, or we don't see it every day, or we don't have people around us that might give us opportunities to experience that, or give ourselves the opportunity to experience that. It's always a challenge. It's always trying to find little things that we can, little thing here that we can recognize as to either be grateful for, to give love towards, or kindness towards, right, or patience. I've had a lesson recently in my life in which I feel very strongly the challenges were presented themselves in, of course, a situation that I felt that this is what I wanted, and this is what I planned for, and this is what was going to happen. And the universe was like, nope, sorry, not working out that way. Here's the challenge, right? And to even like get to the place, here I am saying all these things, and I can be completely honest with you and say, to even get to the place of having a mindset of awareness to say, let me breathe. Let me think about this. Like, what is actually happening here? And sit for a moment and say, and give myself the opportunity to say, this isn't happening to me. This is happening for me. And what good can I find in this? I'll honestly say it took me days or weeks, even though I was meditating every day. It took me weeks to get to that point, to where I was able to like not let it consume me, and trust that because it's not happening how I wanted it, and because it's not happening when I wanted it, that it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And you know what? It's better than it ever was. And it took me weeks to get there. And it took me trusting myself. And it took me taking a step back and like looking at the entire situation, and even in the circumstance, just giving it kindness, no matter what tone was sent my way. Give it kindness. And to me, the gift in that personal experience was patience. And you might say, what? Patience gift? In what? Like, that doesn't make sense. Well, first of all, I would agree with you in at face value. Right? But in giving kindness, patience was the gift I got back, because in looking at it from that perspective, I not only gained a better appreciation of patience and a better appreciation of what that could look like, and the value that could have. Simplifying the definition of patience as removing the element of time from what it is that you want. Simply removing the element of time from what it is that you want. And so that in and of itself, again, if you think about it, it then becomes a gift, because you're giving that to yourself. You're saying to yourself, you know what? Like, don't get upset about when it's going to happen. Just be patient. Instead of patience being something that we're looking at the clock and we're like, why hasn't it happened yet? Like, forget about that. Like, what if we forgot about that? What if we said, time? Bye time. Don't need you right now. You create enough anxiety in my life. Thank you so much for all of that and the gift of realization to appreciate that, right? But you know what? I found patience. And patience has a definition that kind of makes sense, that says, right, time, you go do your thing. I'm going to do my thing over here, visualizing and believing and feeling what it is that I want. And then trusting myself to make choices towards that, and trusting the universe to kind of bring that to me and bring that to our lives, and making choices in every moment towards what it is that we want, as Oprah and many others have said, instead of forcing things to happen in a specific plan, in a specific sequence, in a specific series of events, with specific people in specific places, and all of those knowns that society and our cultures and our environments have kind of forced upon us to live within and be limited within. And what? The potential exists to do it differently? Are you kidding? What? Wow. Man, I just had that realization all over again. How amazing. Like, and it's so true. It's so true. At least I feel that way. You know, I'm sure others are like, no, you're crazy. But hey, we are on the Be Insanely Great podcast show. It's a podcast show. You know, it's a podcast show. We talk about insane things that happen to be great. Maybe, if you think that way. Everybody has their own opinion. Everybody makes their own choices. Jim Carrey, oh, wow. I saw an Instagram reel with you this morning where I think you were on Jimmy Kimmel, I think, and you were being interviewed, and you said, I have an insane belief in manifesting. Insane. And then I look back at your, things you've done, that, The Mask and Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, and all these fun movies that, were fun for a lot of people. And I'm like, all right, I love your personality, and I love the energy that you have when you talk about it. Why can't we, be our own version of insane, right? And who cares? Who cares? We think so much about what other people think and other people care about. Marcus Aurelius had a quote, I'm paraphrasing based on my recollection of it, but he says, we give so much care to the thoughts of others and so little to the thoughts of ourselves. Kind of makes sense. At least it was true for me, and if I'm being honest, it still happens. I can sit here and say and kind of express joy and feel the feelings of happiness. But as I said, there's 50,000 seconds of waking if you're sleeping 8 hours, which if you are, good for you. That's amazing. I feel like I sleep 6 to 8, 5 to 8, or 5, no, 8 doesn't really happen that often anymore, but 5 to 7, I don't know. Like what does Benjamin Franklin say? The early bird gets the worm, or early wise, or the wise are early. I don't know, something like that. But so I started waking up early. I don't know, that's a tangent thing, whatever. But it has a refreshing element of the day that I've never experienced, and I was never one to just wake up at like 4 or 5 in the morning, but it just happens now, and I read. That's where I read. So going back to the Beatles, what do we want to talk about? We want to talk about the fact that, like, here's 4 guys that have basically became revolutionary idols within pop culture by the time of January 1969. They had gotten back from their trip in India, which they talk about in the documentary, and saying that funny enough, that they wish that they were more themselves. Interesting. They said, Paul McCartney, and I think they all agreed when they were talking about it, is that they wish they all would have been themselves more. Kind of interesting point to consider, given how it is that, another beautiful cardinal. I call him Mr. Cardi B. Mr. Cardi B and Mrs. Cardi B. They frequent our feeder. And Cardi B, you're amazing, by the way. Love you. You have my wife listens to the hit songs and everything, and the energy. You got good energy. Yes. But yeah. So Mr. and Mrs. Cardi B are our cardinal family that lives in our neighbor's brush, and then visits our feeder. And there's Mr. Cardi B hanging out on our feeder, which we'll share a picture one day on our feeds of some sort. But yeah, so they were on this journey in India, I think the summer before, the year before, and spiritual exploration journey. and one of the sessions that they had that they was captured in the documentary was them saying that they felt like they should have been themselves. And even the entire kind of premise of the whole thing, they wanted it to be like it was when they were in Germany doing small gigs where they were having fun. I saw a quote. I can't remember if it was Paul McCartney or John Lennon, or Ringo or George, one of the guys. They said that like when they made the decision to like make that their livelihood, they just wanted to have fun. And what a courageous decision to be, just out of high school or whatever it is, or in high school or whatever it is that they were at the time, and say, you know what, guys, we're having a blast. Like, let's just go do this. And where do we got to do it? We got to move to another country. We got to go to Hamburg, and we got to be in the night scene in Hamburg to be able to play and be ourselves and have fun. What? And then all these kind of concepts of 10,000 hours. They were great because they spent 10,000 hours, right? Tiger Woods was great because he'd spent 10,000 hours. Is it 10,000 hours? Maybe. But what if it were something started with something simpler of discovering what it is that we are, and what it is that we believe that we are, and feel that we are, that we just love to do, and that's like, it's like we say, who are we? Well, I don't know. Well, what if we just started with the things that we love to do, and then we kind of distill that back and say, oh, here's the things I love to do, but then we break those things down into activities, and then we break those activities down into feelings, and then looking at circumstances of getting to the root cause of why it is that we're making a choice. And it's, if we want to be happy, like, what if it's so simple as we just want to feel the feeling of happiness? Like, I think everybody has their own definition of happiness. Everybody has their own definition of joy. But if we continue to ask the question of, like, ultimately, like, what if we were all feeling happiness right now, what would it be? What would it be? To me, at least, it's a feeling. It's like, oh my God, I'm so happy. This is amazing. This is the most amazing moment, right? And then taking something like that and taking that exuberant joy and then applying that to something that we really want to happen, right? We really want to happen, like, all right, like Paul McCartney, Ringo, hey, what's up? How you doing? Like, let's all right. What if we had a moment? What if we said, hey, what's up? Like, remember those present moments you had in January 1969? You want to like relive those for a moment and feel the feelings of joy and love that had happened at that mark of time and that record of time that are influencing millions of people's of present moments, probably every day or weekly in the music that people hear. What? Think about that. Think about that for just a moment. The songs that were written, whatever it is, 50 years ago, over 50 years ago, and there's songs that were written hundreds of years ago, quotes that were stated hundreds of years ago, that are influencing millions of present moments every day, creating a feeling of joy, of excitement, of love. And then allowing that to influence the present moments of where all potentials exist for anyone that's engaged, anyone that's present enough to be engaged, right? I was thinking about this last night. I was thinking, like, what are some of the moments that any one of us can say, man, I was totally present? I bet you, I don't gamble, but scratch that. Never won, not good at that. It's like, fear, why? Because my fear of losing overcame, like, was absolutely attracted to me in every opportunity I did that for. And so no gambling, no betting for me. But like, I thought about it and I'm like, all right, well, like, concerts, like concerts in which people are fully engaged with the music, or not even concerts, people driving down the road dancing to a song. Like, they're present in the moment. They're listening to the lyrics. They're feeling the energy of the song, and they're just being. They are just being. We are just being when we're listening and feeling something that we resonate with. And how do we do that more frequently? How do we find a way to do that in our everyday life where we start to make choices to have that happen more frequently? Right? Is that possible? Why not? Why not? There's no reason why not. Only if someone says it, and only if we believe it will it not be. But if we give ourselves an opportunity. Oh, Mr. Blue Jay! Mr. Blue Jay came! What's up, Mr. Blue Jay? That's the name for Mr. Blue Jay. It's not as creative as Carrey B, but that's just what's stuck. Anyways, so yeah, it's present, being present, and feeling the energy of that. And oh man, here's another fun one. Another one I was thinking about recently. Einstein, Mr. Albert Einstein. What an incredible philosopher and scientist. He's probably more of a philosopher on the back half of his life than he was in the beginning half. He had many things that he said that resonated. One that I'll share with you here, that I shared with our producers earlier today. I absolutely am not here teaching anybody anything. Oh, beautiful birds. Oh my God, this butterfly. Is that you, Albert? Hello. I am not teaching anyone anything. I'm not telling anybody to do anything. I am simply providing a perspective of potentials that existed in my life, that could exist in your life if you choose to believe potentially that they might. It's simply a platform to learn if you so choose. Learn if you so choose, right? Another quote he said is what did he say? He said, teaching, love is a better teacher than duty. And I put forced duty. Like, no one wants to be told to do anything, right? But if you do it because you love it and you do it because you choose to do it, you're like 100,000 million infinite times more likely to actually do it and believe it and do something with it, right? And so like that, and that just makes sense. Like that, it just makes sense, at least to me, just makes sense. Oh, back to Einstein. So relativity. Anybody know what relativity is? I didn't. I mean, I heard it. I grew up. I went to physics class. Learned. I got. I don't know. I passed. Graduated. Right? But how do I like? And then I thought about, and then I read about relativity and some of the quotes he said. He's like, so, one of the quotes he says is like, sitting next to a pretty girl is for an hour feels like a minute, but sitting on a hot coal, for a minute feels like an hour. Like, that's relativity, right? That's a short quote of how he explains relativity. And then I think about, then I say, okay, well, like, what if we applied that relativity to the example I was just talking about with being in the present moment with a song, right? It's like the song ends and we're like, oh no, wait, it's already over. It's like we literally just were in it, thinking about it, feeling the energy of the song, whatever song we love that we're listening to, and then it's over. It's like, oh, okay, and if another good one comes, like, oh man, this is a great set. This DJ's on a roll today, or and that DJ could be Apple Music, it could be Spotify, it could be your own playlist, it could be the universe, it could be FM radio, XM radio, all these things, right? Whatever it is, but the relativity element of it is like, could it be that those things that happen quickly in time, that we are so that we forget about time. We forget about time. Time goes away. It evaporates. It doesn't apply to our present moment. And so in trying to define the present moment, like, what is the present moment? I couldn't even tell you. Like, I remember, and this just came to me when I was younger. My grandmother had a magnet on her refrigerator. It says, said something like, I remember it was, oddly enough, it was definitely a yellow magnet. I remember that for sure. Maybe I'll ask my family, see if they remember. But it said something like the past is history, tomorrow's a mystery, today is the present, or today is a gift, and that's why they call it the present. Right? And I got goosebumps, so I'm pretty sure that's kind of accurate. so, thinking about that, like, what is that? And how do you actually have an awareness as to what the present moment is so you can actually be in it, so we can be in it and be in it more frequently, so things just kind of happen and happen in a way in which we might never have expected, and trusting the unknown and being in the moment. And what does that actually mean? And how do you actually do it? And how do you find one of the 50,000 waking moments in the day to make a choice to just be and give yourself credit to say, hey, I did it once today. I chose one moment or one series of 10 seconds to be present. And wow, that's more present than I've been in years. Amazing. Good for you. Like, all right, maybe do 11 seconds tomorrow if you want. If not, that's cool too. And try and give ourselves credit. Say, what? I did that. Oh my God, I didn't. It was great. And just realize. And I think that's part of it, is that we have labels for a lot of things, and labels get put on things in which it immediately. So labels, to me at least, seem, so they're very, very good from an analogy standpoint, to be able to bring perspective and reference to something quickly so people can say, oh yeah, I understand what that means. So it's amazing for that, because it helps bridge communication and bridge gaps and bring some continuity and coherence to things in a very, very quick way, right? But labels in another sense are very limiting. So like, once you get past the reference, sometimes a label for something like creates a limit that doesn't allow us to think beyond that, doesn't allow us to open our awareness to the possibilities that exist, because, oh no, this is what the definition of that is, right? Just like impossibility is just a dictionary definition. That is all it is. That is all it is. It is nothing more. It is nothing more than that, right? And so how do we, relativity seems to be something in which it in its good moments, it supports the present moment, because we're feeling feelings of being engaged with something that seems to have usually love at the core. When it has something we hate, like hot coals, oh my God, that was the worst. I burned my hand. It felt like an hour. My thing was only 2 seconds. Right. So it's like nature telling us or giving us the opportunity to see like what it is that is potentially destructive or not good, and what it is that's constructive, that we naturally and innately feel joy and feel love and then experience the feeling of happiness. And those are the moments in which relativity gives us the opportunity to feel like it went by so fast. And I think most of us, when we're working, whether we're accomplishing things or whatever, we're like, oh man, that went fast. Well, like those, if you look back, those are probably some of our happiest moments, right? And they go so fast. So relativity says, bye time, go, you're gone. Because you know what? We're trying to be present. And how do we be present? With applying relativity. Like, that's the other thing is, we all learn about relativity, but I mean, whoever says, how do you apply that in life to our benefit? How do we apply that in life to our benefit? Is it possible? Does that exist? Well, like, here's a potential to look at it in a way of giving ourselves the opportunity to be more present, giving ourselves the opportunity to be more engaged in every moment. Why not? It might only be 0.01% of today's moments, but tomorrow, if it's 0.02, that's great. That's an improvement. We got 365 days in a year, many, many years in a lifetime, right? So like, let's just one day at a time, it's okay. And we took all the years to get to who we are now. Like, we can change. We can change that potentially. That potential exists if we believe it, right? And also the fact that some people might say, well, like this is who I am, and this is what I believe, and that's fine. Everybody, like I said, everybody makes their own choices. Everybody has their own opinions. Everybody has their own life. Everybody's in their own world. Everybody does their own thing. But if we can give ourselves the opportunity to be and to try and improve and to try and see what's possible, like I think many of us, if we're honest, just never gave ourselves the chance, and we just like not for anything. It's just the environment supported that, our cultures supported that, our the people that we love kind of help guide us into ways that, for all intents and purposes, were probably exactly the right thing. But if we look at that and allow ourselves the opportunity, it's not always, doesn't always have to be how it's always been. If we give ourselves the opportunity to believe that all potentials exist in the present moment, then like that's literally unlimited, like literally anything. And because it doesn't happen tomorrow doesn't mean it's not happening. Say this, like, fruit's growing on a tree. Does it, do you see a flower and the fruit's there tomorrow? No. It takes months. It takes months for the fruit to, get to a place in which you can actually eat it. And enjoy it. you might be able to take a flower and make a, souffle or something cool out of it. But, if you waited like 3 or 4 more months for that mango or that strawberry or whatever it is, like it would probably taste better. It would probably be better. Right. And so, using elements to guide us and to be aware of. And again, it seems like I go off on these tangents, but they are absolutely connected. They are absolutely happening for a reason to kind of tie concepts together that I think are just, and to me, I feel like it's how we're wired today. Everything happens so fast. Everything happens. What used to take 5 years to happen happens in 5 days. Right. You go back to business in the 60s and the 70s, and what used to, again, take years and years and years to happen happens now in a matter of days. And that's just happening faster and faster and faster. And so how do we like give ourselves the opportunity to not like be like so maddened by that and so kind of like drawn into the cycle of madness, and listen, there's always things that we got to do, right? We all have responsibilities. We all have things that are part of our lives, personally and professionally. And again, it's giving ourselves the opportunity that, if we do want to make a change and we do want to do something different and we do want to, choose different potentials in our life, that it can happen over time, over time. It doesn't need to happen. It'll happen in a future present moment. If that's what we want and that's what we believe it and we feel it and we visualize it and we consistently affirm that that's what's happening, anything is possible. Anything is possible. We just need to believe it.